You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the show. We always appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, our latest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you, doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of the world, because you're here to learn stuff. You're learn to make your life better, make your world around you better, and all that sort of wonderful things. So go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss One, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. We have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking to her about her book, off the presses, out November 1st, 2023, called Pipers, Picture Power. Linda Zeigler joins us on the show with us today. We're going to be talking about her insights and everything that goes into it. Welcome to the show. Linda, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you. And give us any .coms. Where do you want people to look you up on the interwebs?
Intentionalvisualization.com is a website, and it has my books for teachers and I have my children's books. So that would be a good place, and some information, other information.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book?
This book is about real children and a dog. And the main character, Piper, wonders things. And she says, how do I know things? How will I grow? What makes me imagine? I want to know. And that starts the journey and the adventure. And she meets a brain, which I noticed on the beginning of your show, you talked about brain. And this is a character in our book. And so I'm going to introduce you to our brain. And his name is the Thinker. The Thinker. And so Piper wonders those things. She's kind of the oldest character in the book. And so what she does, she meets this brain. And this brain starts teaching her about learning and about her own brain. And then she wonders if it's true. So she takes it back and tries different little activities with the other children that are in the book. There's 10 different lessons that the brain teaches, and it's a lot of fun. It's an interactive book. There's questions so that the reader gets involved. And now the brain character itself is an imaginative character, but everybody else is real.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Piper, you have Piper there where we can meet her, correct?
Yes. This is
Hi, Mr. Voss.
Hello, Piper. How you doing? How does it feel to be a main character in a book?
It feels really good. It feels just like I love to read. So it just feels, wow, if you know your own name is in a book, you feel just like really good about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can grow up and be like, I'm a main character in a book. And then this is going to be this series. Is that correct?
Yes.
And tell us about the series. What hopes to play out here?
It's called the Picture Power series. And it's to extend, mental imaging. People think it's just making pictures in your head, but it's way bigger than that. It is about imagination. It is about remembering, and we all need to remember. And it's about knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. It's about conceptualization. There's so many things that it helps you with. Dealing with your emotions, dealing with your senses, all of these things, critical thinking, creative brains, all of those things. The next book is actually at the illustrators. The illustrator for Piper's Picture Power for the book is an art teacher here in Wichita, Kansas. Her name's Taylor McQuarrie. And the brain itself was created by my niece. So I used those in the classroom when I was working with preschool, kindergarten, teaching them about their thinking. And then I decided, wait a minute, that would be a perfect character for the book. And then she ended up creating the children. Now, Piper
did.
had
the
this.
Piper did? Or
No,
the
the illustrator.
Okay.
This is the back of the book, Mr. Voss, and this was Piper's idea. So I'll let her tell you about why she thought that was a cool idea.
Okay.
I thought it would be cool so that way kids could see, like that we're not just characters in a book, it's real, and that you really do in real life need to use imaging to be able to learn and think, and you can even make up your own stories with that, and it makes it a lot more entertaining and fun.
Is this your first podcast you've been on?
Yeah.
Piper? Congratulations. You're starting early. You might be our youngest guest we've ever had on the show. I'm not sure we've had anybody this young on the show, unless somebody walked in during filming with somebody's kid or something. But congratulations. So you came up with the idea for the other people in the book or the back of the book, correct?
Yeah.
She wanted that. And I've had people tell me that's one of their favorite things is to know that the characters are real.
Yeah.
And so there will be pictures on the back of each of I have 5 books in my brain. There's one at the illustrators called Always Imaging Alice. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one ready to go once Always Imaging Alice is finished. That's called Switch It, Change It, Rearrange It. And it's how when something drops into your head, if it's not a good thought, you don't have to let it stay. You can switch it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This is probably an important skills for young people to and it's targeted towards young people, correct?
This is, but I'm going to tell you, us old people need it too.
Yeah, I know some people on Twitter and Facebook that need it, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like one of the things you explore is the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? The effect that people, they think that you talk about, the aspect of you know what you know, you know what you don't know, and then the one aspect that a lot of people don't focus on is what you don't know, and that's usually what gets you in life is you're not paying attention or looking for what you don't know. But a lot of Dunning-Kruger is part of that effect where usually the less people know, the more they think they know something. And as they really get into it and try and master it, then they find out that they really don't know anything about it at all. And, and the journey to mastery is a definite learning curve.
Because they're not even open then. So if we teach this, and it's called metacognition, mental imaging, making the concepts and knowing, that is cognition. But when you talk about your thinking, it actually is metacognition, and it takes it deeper. And that's when we can share who we are. So the classrooms change when this is used, and relationships change, because when I care about what you're thinking, and you care about what I'm thinking, actually it bonds us.
Yeah.
And you feel like you belong together, because not that you have to agree, but it's just to care.
Yeah. We need to care about each other. We need to be stewards of each other, and rising tide lifts all boats, as it were.
Right.
Definitely. So you got the series. What made you want to get Piper involved, or did she volunteer to get involved? How'd that all work out? Tell us the story, if you would.
As a grandma does, you share your wisdom, or what you think is wisdom, but she really liked it, and we had a lot of fun with it. And that's when I decided, hey, I think this could be a really fun thing and expand thinking. And then she's always supportive. Plus, she has really good ideas. So
really good ideas.
Yeah, we're working on a game called Perspective, and she's a consultant on the game, and she's played it. And So that's another little aspect that we want to have people interact and talk about what they're thinking and what they believe. And then we can learn from each other.
Yeah, most definitely. It's good that you have a perspective. So tell us about your background. I know you mentioned that you've done teaching, and let's bring that around to, what your influence was, how you were raised, how you became a teacher and want to teach other people, and then the proponent for what got this book launched.
I was an educator for 35 years, 10 of them in the classroom, 10 of them I had a reading specialist. And then I became a principal, elementary principal, a high school principal for a year, and then the superintendent in a small rural school, Quinter, Kansas. And we spent a number of our years there. Our kids graduated, and I learned some things there. And this is how we decided that we were going to test all of our first through fourth grade students, pre and post, with a reading inventory. And we chose Dr. Jerry John's basic reading inventory. And I ended up writing my first 2 books with Jerry after he came and observed everything we were doing. Because what we found was that students were not automatically using mental imageries. A lot of them didn't even know they should. Our environment have changed, but there was a segment, a culture, that these kids didn't have any screens and they didn't have any televisions at home. And by golly, reading was their entertainment, and they could tell you everything they read. They saw it. They answered the comprehension questions easily. So I just started thinking about what are they doing different, and how can I get the other kids to do it? And so that's where it all started. And then teachers bought in. We went from being at the state average in reading in our school, elementary school, to 20% above the state average by focusing on teaching this intentionally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking awesome.
It absolutely is. And the kids taught me, because I would say, how are you doing this? Like one little guy, I said, do you ever make pictures any other time when you don't read? And he said, my folks tell me to do chores, and I picture myself doing them, and then I remember what to do.
Oh,
that's the kind of stuff they would tell me. So pretty exciting.
Now, there are certain people that I think see in pictures. There's other people that see in video, or there's
concepts. There's conceptual, yes. And so imagery it's not like you flip it on and off. We do it differently, and based on everybody's imaging is different because all of our experiences are different. And the book says your experiences come from what you've seen, heard, and read. It's also all in rhyme. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. So you hope to put this series out, and I guess is the target to try and teach kids how to just be more well-adjusted? What would you say?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And to enjoy their learning. That was one of the things when I saw this group of kids that, were loving to read and were ready to talk about it all the time. They didn't have distractions. They could focus. And needless to say, technology is not a bad thing. It's just got to be in a balance. We cannot have kids online all the time and think that they're going to have their own thoughts, because actually when they're on and they're looking at somebody else, that's not their thinking. They're looking at somebody else's ideas.
It's true. You got to form your own ideas or use your own brain to think and all that stuff. Otherwise you're just living someone else's life and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What else have we talked about the book that you want to tease out to people to get them to pick it up?
What about you, Pipes? Do you have something else you want to say?
I guess that just really kind of just what we were just talking about. It's better to have a screen balance, because you're just kind of like, a lot of kids my age now, all they do is just sit on like an app called YouTube and just sit there and scroll on shorts and stuff. And it's go outside or read a book and go have fun and do something instead of just sitting there watching videos all the time.
Definitely. That's how we grew up, walking outside and doing stuff and all that things. So
communication, I feel like that is something I see parents doing it. I see parents on, watching their phone, and their kids are sitting right there on their iPads and nobody's talking. And I feel like that's a problem. That's a real problem. And the questions in the books ask the reader to respond. What is your favorite animal? So memory, they're remembering their favorite pet, and they're thinking, and so that they can feel it and can label that's memory and the importance of it. So with the characters, they all picture something different. So here's one. And so you can see that Piper asks them to write, and that writing is a very important thing. And that's kind of leaving us too. But she puts pick up litter. Then they all picture something different. The dog pictures, of course, picking up dog poop. And the one little girl Alice picks up a cup, and Cooper picks up a bottle, and Violet pictures kitty litter because she likes kitty. You can be confused by sometimes too when you picture something different than what the meaning was for the person that was talking. So all those kinds of things are in this book.
And as we go out, give us a final pitch out for people to order up the book. Piper, you're welcome to throw in here too. And any .coms you want people to find you on the interwebs.
I am starting to make my own thing that's kind of like about imaging too. It's like more of writing letters. I don't know how to explain it quite right, but if you put a paragraph out on a internet or like a website typing about imagery and that stuff.
So she's a believer, and the other granddaughter is Alice, and she's 4, and she loves it too. I will say that she had a little stuffy, her sleepy sheepy, and she had it, and she said, you can make pictures in your head. And so when 3 and 4-year-olds can tell you that, I will say a little story. When I went into a preschool classroom to try to introduce this to them, I said, now I'm going to say a word, and you are going to tell me what comes to your head in your mind. And so I just said the word rabbit, and they were in a little circle, and then I went one by one, and they'd tell me, and they would show me. They would get up and hop. They'd show me what was the rabbit was doing, and the size of it, and the size of their ears, and they were just totally engaged, and they were each watching each other. So the engagement that they feel by listening to each other is I didn't even know it was going to do that, but it does it at all ages. And so then I came to the last little girl, and her eyes were sparkling, and she said, my rabbit's a rainbow rabbit. And I said, oh, what an imagination. And so even that basic core of helping kids understand what's real and what's imagined. So that's part of the beginning of it. And to understand, then, are you telling me a story? Is this real? Because they try that too.
It's so wonderful to have you on. Give us the .com as we go out.
Okay, it's on amzn.to, and my specific is the intentionalvisualization.com, which it has all the books. This is the latest teacher book. It's called Imagine Cognition Using Intentional Visualization. So it wasn't hard because I already knew all the concepts that I would want to teach. It was just putting it in a narrative format and having some fun with kids being interactive in the book.
Awesome sauce. Thank you both for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Thanks for audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
And that should have us out, ladies.